China's rise from an isolated agrarian nation to a global economic powerhouse begins with a country caught between the past and an uncertain future. In the late 1970s, cities were quiet, factories outdated, and most families depended on farming for survival. The economy was constrained by rigid planning, limited foreign contact, and a lack of modern technology. Yet beneath the surface, a population of nearly 1 billion people carried ambitions and resilience that would soon ignite one of the most extraordinary transformations in history. Villagers walked miles for work, industrial workers earned modest rations, and students studied under dim lights, unaware that within a single generation their society would experience a change so vast that it would reshape the balance of global power. As the decade shifted, the leadership of China recognized that stagnation threatened stability. The country was closing in on a crossroads. Industrial output was low, productivity remained stagnant, and millions of citizens faced limited opportunities. This pressure set the stage for a turning point that would alter the trajectory of the nation. Decisions made in government offices, rural communes, and experimental economic zones would breathe life into an era of reforms that unlocked the potential of an enormous workforce and abundant natural resources. The shift required courage, experimentation, and a willingness to step away from decades of economic orthodoxy. The introduction of new economic policies marked the beginning of extraordinary momentum. Local farmers were allowed to cultivate land with greater autonomy, motivated by the possibility of selling surplus crops at market prices. This single policy shift sparked a dramatic increase in food production and rural income. Villages that once struggled with subsistence farming began to experience prosperity. Families purchased their first bicycles, radios, and household appliances. Rural entrepreneurship flourished as people opened food stalls, small workshops, and repair shops. The small-scale energy of grassroots enterprise became a foundational force behind China's early growth. The momentum spread to the nation's coastal regions. Vast stretches of land were designated as special economic zones where foreign companies could invest, manufacture, and export goods under favorable conditions. Construction cranes rose above formerly quiet fishing towns. Streets filled with workers migrating from distant provinces, seeking opportunities that had never existed before. Factories built with foreign capital brought new technologies, modern management systems, and global supply chain connections. Production lines operated day and night, filling shipping containers with electronics, textiles, toys, and machinery destined for international markets. The rise of the manufacturing sector fundamentally changed the rhythm of life. Urban centers expanded rapidly as millions relocated from countryside communities to industrial hubs. The shift created a demographic transformation on a scale unprecedented in human history. Housing blocks appeared across expanding skylines, transportation networks extended outward, and infrastructure adapted to support booming populations. Streets buzzed with electric bicycles, buses, and early cars, while workplaces echoed with the sound of machines. This mass movement replenished factories with motivated labor and enabled companies to scale production at breathtaking speed. Foreign investment became a catalyst for technological adoption. Multinational corporations trained local workers in advanced techniques, quality control, and precision manufacturing. Over time, Chinese engineers gained expertise and adapted global innovations to local contexts. Domestic companies emerged from this ecosystem, evolving from contract manufacturers into independent designers and innovators. Competition accelerated progress. Factories continually upgraded equipment, improved automation, and optimized efficiency. Productivity soared, allowing China to become the world's primary producer of manufactured goods. Infrastructure development progressed simultaneously, creating a foundation that supported explosive economic activity. Highways stretched across provinces, connecting inland cities to coastal ports. New airports opened in regions previously served only by rail. Logistics companies emerged to manage the swift movement of goods from factories to international markets. Ports transformed into global shipping giants, loaded with cargo bound for every continent. Entire cities dedicated to logistics and manufacturing rose from the ground, demonstrating a level of planning and scale unmatched by any other developing nation. The financial system evolved to support economic expansion. Banks extended credit to entrepreneurs, industrial firms, and local governments. Capital flowed into factories, infrastructure, and real estate projects. Savings from millions of citizens provided liquidity for investment. Government policies ensured stability, encouraging long-term planning and rapid execution. Local leaders competed to attract investors, improve efficiency, and strengthen local industries. This competition fueled ambitious development agendas that reshaped landscapes and lifestyles. Education played a vital role in supporting rapid development. Universities expanded programs in science, engineering, and technology. Students studied intensely, driven by new opportunities in emerging industries. International exchange programs exposed scholars to global research and innovation. Research institutions formed partnerships with domestic companies, fostering advancements in telecommunications, computing, and materials science. A generation of skilled professionals emerged, ready to contribute to the country's transformation. Urban areas experienced a cultural awakening as new economic possibilities reshaped social identity. Families who had never imagined owning modern appliances began purchasing televisions, refrigerators, and air conditioners. Restaurants, entertainment centers, and shopping districts multiplied across cities. Workers sent money home to support relatives in rural communities, bridging the gap between tradition and modernity. The dream of a better future encouraged perseverance amid intense labor demands and long working hours. The pursuit of upward mobility became a defining feature of the era. Domestic companies grew from small workshops into national brands. Entrepreneurial minds recognized the potential of emerging markets and tapped into rising consumer demand. Retail enterprises expanded supply chains, electronics firms invested in research, and automotive companies experimented with new models. Competition intensified as firms sought to establish national dominance. The business landscape matured, laying the groundwork for global expansion in later decades. China's leadership emphasized long-term planning and national objectives. 5-year plans targeted strategic industries, encouraging investment in energy, transportation, telecommunications, and manufacturing. Reforms balanced market forces with state guidance, creating a hybrid system that combined flexibility with stability. Industrial parks, development clusters, and technology zones attracted entrepreneurs and investors. Through coordinated planning, cities specialized in particular sectors, creating concentrated hubs of innovation and expertise. Social norms shifted amid rising prosperity. Families placed new importance on education and professional success. Young people pursued careers in finance, engineering, technology, and academia. A modern middle class emerged, characterized by increased purchasing power and heightened aspirations. Citizens traveled domestically, explored new hobbies, and embraced modern conveniences. Cities developed cultural centers, museums, and universities, cultivating intellectual and artistic growth alongside economic progress. Technological infrastructure accelerated development patterns. Telecommunications networks expanded rapidly. Mobile phones became widespread, enabling communication across vast regions. Internet adoption grew, connecting citizens to information, commerce, and digital services. The rise of online platforms created new business models, digital marketplaces, and service-based industries. Technology transformed daily life, business operations, and government governance. The digital economy became a crucial engine of growth. The government's approach to modernization included careful management of social stability. Policies addressed employment, urbanization, and infrastructure needs. Initiatives focused on poverty reduction and rural revitalization. Public investment projects employed millions of workers, improving roads, schools, hospitals, and energy grids. The reduction of poverty became one of the most significant accomplishments of the era. Entire regions lifted themselves into new levels of economic security. Large-scale construction projects reshaped the physical landscape. Bridges stretched for miles across rivers, connecting economic zones. Skyscrapers rose in financial districts, symbolizing ambition and progress. Rail networks expanded with astonishing speed. The country invested heavily in high-speed rail, creating the most extensive system in the world. These transportation networks unified the country, facilitated mobility, and accelerated commerce across regions. As the first phase of China's rapid development unfolded, the country transitioned from isolation to integration. Global markets absorbed Chinese exports, and Chinese businesses learned to navigate international competition. Trade surpluses grew, providing capital for further investment. Diplomatic relationships expanded, encouraging cooperation with nations across Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Americas. China's global influence evolved as economic success strengthened its position on the world stage. Millions of individuals who once lived in poverty found themselves in a dynamic, modernizing environment filled with opportunities previously unimaginable. The momentum of transformation spread across rural towns, bustling cities, coastal regions, and inland provinces. The nation entered a new chapter defined by ambition, resilience, and a commitment to continuous improvement. Factories operated with increasing sophistication, businesses sought efficiency, and society embraced the possibilities of modern life. The rapid development had only begun, and the groundwork was laid for even more dramatic changes in the decades ahead. China's rapid development gains momentum as dramatic economic shifts unfold through the late 1980s and early 1990s. Across the eastern coastline, once quiet fishing towns transform into humming industrial zones. Smokestacks rise where rice paddies once stood. Assembly lines stretch across newly built factories, and workers from every province arrive by the millions. Young men and women share cramped dormitories, taking overnight trains to coastal cities in search of opportunity. For many, this is the first time they leave their rural hometowns, stepping into a world shaped by speed, ambition, and constant change. Foreign companies begin establishing partnerships with Chinese firms, bringing machinery, manufacturing expertise, and global business practices. Japanese, American, Korean, and European executives travel to China, often surprised by the pace at which local workers learn new skills. Investment zones offer tax incentives, cheap land leases, and a seemingly endless supply of labor. International corporations outsource production, and China becomes the world's frontline for electronics, textiles, toys, and household goods. Ships loaded with Chinese-made products depart daily toward global markets, signaling the start of an export powerhouse. Inside industrial plants, innovation accelerates. Engineers trained abroad return home, combining Western technology with China's competitive labor advantages. Productivity increases, output expands, and factories operate around the clock. The integration of global supply chains reshapes the national economy. What once seemed impossible, mass production on a world-leading scale, becomes routine. The phrase "made in China" appears on packaging across continents, becoming symbolic of affordability, efficiency, and speed. Rural China undergoes its own transformation. New roads connect isolated villages to regional markets, allowing farmers to sell surplus produce and purchase modern goods. Townships experiment with market reforms, encouraging entrepreneurship and small-scale manufacturing. Workshops producing clothing, furniture, and agricultural machinery emerge in clusters, creating local ecosystems of suppliers, transporters, and distributors. The rural-to-urban economic linkage strengthens, accelerating national growth. Education expands rapidly. Schools receive funding for science, math, and engineering programs. Universities open new departments focused on technology, international business, and industrial management. Students compete for top scores, aiming for positions in emerging industries. This growing talent pool fuels China's technological advancement, enabling companies to shift from basic assembly to complex production. Transportation infrastructure becomes a national priority. Highways link major cities, reducing travel time for goods and workers. Ports expand to handle increasing cargo volume, and airports rise in regions that once had limited connectivity. Heavy investment in roads, bridges, and power plants creates an economic multiplier effect, stimulating employment and enabling industries to flourish in previously underdeveloped areas. Construction cranes dominate skylines as cities expand upward and outward. As reforms deepen, private businesses emerge as engines of innovation. Street vendors evolve into small markets evolve into shops. Shops evolve into companies that eventually compete on the national stage. Entrepreneurs navigate challenges, limited capital, bureaucratic obstacles, and competitive pressure, but those who succeed help shape a new class of Chinese enterprise. E-commerce, retail distribution, household appliance manufacturing, and early digital technology sectors begin taking shape, laying the foundation for future giants. Urbanization reshapes the cultural landscape. Millions migrate from the countryside to cities like Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Shanghai, and Beijing. Skyscrapers rise, shopping districts appear, and subway networks expand. Cafes, restaurants, and entertainment venues reflect a growing middle class seeking modern lifestyles. Consumer spending becomes an increasingly powerful force in the economy, complementing the export-led growth model. Families buy motorbikes, televisions, refrigerators, and later, cars and smartphones. This shift marks the beginning of China's domestic consumption era. Government planning remains central to the nation's trajectory. 5-year plans set ambitious targets for industry, agriculture, education, and infrastructure. Policies focus on prioritizing heavy industry, encouraging technological adoption, and ensuring stability. Local governments compete to attract investment, using land incentives and construction projects to stimulate economic activity. The coordination between national vision and regional implementation creates a unified strategic growth model that few developing nations achieve. Special economic zones expand beyond the coastal provinces. Central and western regions receive new industrial parks, logistics centers, and energy investments. Railways connecting inland cities to coastal ports amplify trade capacity. This shift reduces geographic inequality and integrates the entire country into the global economy. By strengthening inland development, China ensures that growth is not confined to the coastline alone. State-owned enterprises undergo restructuring. Inefficient factories are closed, merged, or reformed. Competitive SOEs in steel, energy, telecommunications, and transportation receive strategic support to modernize. Advanced foreign machinery replaces outdated equipment, boosting productivity. Managers adopt modern corporate practices, improving efficiency and reducing waste. These reformed enterprises become pillars of national industrial capacity. International exposure accelerates technological catch-up. Engineers and business leaders travel abroad to study global innovations. Partnerships with multinational corporations facilitate technology transfer. Domestic companies reverse engineer imported goods, gaining insight into advanced design and manufacturing techniques. Over time, this process leads to the creation of independent research and development centers in major cities, marking China's shift from imitator to innovator. Financial reforms gradually open capital markets. Banks expand lending to entrepreneurs, housing developers, and manufacturers. The establishment of stock exchanges in Shanghai and Shenzhen allows companies to raise funds through public listings. Middle-class families begin investing in equities, savings products, and housing, contributing to capital formation. Though risks remain, these financial channels support large-scale urban and industrial expansion. Environmental challenges emerge as a byproduct of rapid development. Air pollution worsens in industrial zones, and rivers struggle with contamination from factories. Soil erosion and deforestation reflect the pressure of economic priorities. Public concern rises, prompting the government to launch early environmental protection bureaus and policies, though enforcement remains inconsistent. Regardless, the recognition of these issues marks the beginning of China's long-term environmental strategy. Global geopolitics shift as China becomes a manufacturing superpower. Countries reliant on Chinese goods experience lower consumer prices and higher business profitability. Trade surges between China and Europe, North America, Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Shipping routes grow busier, and diplomatic relationships deepen through economic partnerships. China's influence expands, not through military power, but through the irresistible force of trade and production. Domestically, living standards improve. Access to healthcare, education, and modern amenities grows. Poverty rates drop sharply as rural and urban incomes rise. Families transition from subsistence living to more stable financial conditions. Children pursue higher education, learning skills that match global economic demands. The dream of upward mobility strengthens national determination to continue developing. By the turn of the millennium, China stands at a pivotal moment. The first wave of reforms has transformed the country from a primarily agrarian society into a dynamic industrial economy. Factories produce goods for the entire world. Cities expand at unprecedented speed, and a newly energized workforce drives the nation forward. The foundations of rapid development are firmly established, shaping the trajectory that will make China one of the most influential economic forces in the 21st century. Part 2 ends with China positioned as a rising global industrial center, fueled by labor, technology adoption, infrastructure investment, and foreign partnerships. The acceleration of growth now sets the stage for the next chapter: innovation, global expansion, and transformation into a high-tech superpower. Factories across China accelerated their output during the late 1990s and early 2000s, as new highways, logistics hubs, and port expansions connected every province to global markets. Container ships lined the ports of Shenzhen, Ningbo, Guangzhou, and Shanghai, carrying in electronics, textiles, machinery, and furniture to every corner of the world. Foreign buyers placed orders months in advance, confident that China's low-cost labor, disciplined workforce, and rapidly improving infrastructure could deliver at a scale unmatched by any other country. Inside production zones, workers operated assembly lines with precision, repeating motions thousands of times per day as supervisors tracked efficiency with digital counters and performance boards. Wages were low by Western standards, but offered far more opportunity than rural farming, attracting millions of young migrants seeking upward mobility. Urban expansion accelerated as factories expanded. The skylines of Shanghai, Beijing, Tianjin, and Chongqing transformed dramatically, with new skyscrapers emerging at a pace that shocked urban planners worldwide. Construction cranes dotted the horizon, building residential towers, office parks, industrial estates, and commercial complexes. Real estate became a national obsession, with families purchasing homes as investments, confident that property values would rise as cities modernized. Infrastructure projects intensified. Subways, airports, bridges, and high-speed rail routes connected regions with unprecedented efficiency. The speed of transformation created a sense of inevitability and ambition, fueling optimism across the country. Education played a decisive role in China's rapid advancement. Universities expanded enrollment, technical schools produced skilled engineers, and vocational programs trained millions in manufacturing, logistics, and construction. The government emphasized STEM programs, research funding, and innovation-driven education reform. Students studied long hours, aware that competition was fierce and career opportunities multiplied for those with the right skills. By the mid-2000s, China began producing more engineers annually than the United States, fueling its manufacturing and technology boom. New tech parks emerged in Beijing's Zhongguancun, Shenzhen's Nanshan district, and cities across Guangdong, Zhejiang, and Jiangsu. Domestic consumption strengthened as incomes rose. Shopping malls appeared in every major city, offering clothing, electronics, and entertainment. Restaurants filled with young professionals spending their new earnings. Parents invested heavily in their children's education, healthcare, and extracurricular activities. Online commerce took off quickly, driven by Alibaba, JD, Com, and later Pinduoduo and Douyin commerce. Digital payment systems, especially Alipay and WeChat Pay, revolutionized transactions, turning cashless payments into daily life. Smartphones became essential tools, connecting urban and rural households to markets, services, and entertainment. China's manufacturing dominance continued expanding. The nation became the world's largest producer of steel, cement, electronics, ships, automobiles, and countless other products. Entire global supply chains centered around Chinese factories. Western brands relied heavily on Chinese production for everything from clothing to laptops. Multinational corporations shifted more operations to China, attracted by its efficiency, workforce scale, and supportive industrial policies. As production increased, logistics improved. High-speed rail shipped goods across provinces in hours, while megaports like Shanghai's Yangshan Deepwater Port set world records in container throughput. Rural regions transformed through modernization programs. Roads, electricity, and internet access reached remote villages. Farmers gained access to e-commerce platforms, allowing them to sell produce directly to urban consumers. Migrant workers sent earnings home, financing home improvements, education, and small businesses. Poverty reduction campaigns expanded microfinance programs, public health initiatives, and rural infrastructure. Over several decades, hundreds of millions of people rose from extreme poverty, marking one of the most significant poverty reduction achievements in human history. Government planning remained central to economic strategy. 5-year plans outlined priorities for industry, technology, agriculture, health, and education. Local officials competed to achieve targets, driving rapid project implementation. State-owned enterprises continued playing key roles in energy, banking, construction, and telecommunications, providing stability during global financial turbulence. Private companies thrived in industries like manufacturing, retail, and digital services, but operated within regulatory frameworks designed to align with national strategic goals. Global integration deepened further after China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001. Tariffs fell, foreign investment surged, and global brands entered Chinese markets. China became the factory of the world, exporting goods to Europe, Africa, North America, and South America. Trade surpluses increased foreign currency reserves, enabling large-scale infrastructure investments and international financial stability. Western economies grew increasingly dependent on Chinese supply chains, while China relied on global demand to sustain manufacturing. Innovation accelerated. Tech giants like Huawei, Tencent, Alibaba, Xiaomi, and ByteDance emerged as global competitors. China invested heavily in research and development, artificial intelligence, semiconductor design, renewable energy, and electric vehicles. High-speed rail networks expanded rapidly, eventually becoming the largest in the world. Renewable energy installations, solar, wind, and hydro, grew at unprecedented speed. The Belt and Road Initiative opened new trade corridors across Asia, Africa, and Europe, connecting markets and strengthening China's geopolitical influence. Urban life evolved simultaneously. Middle-class families embraced modern lifestyles. Car ownership increased, tourism expanded, health and fitness became priorities, and digital entertainment exploded. High-speed internet enabled live streaming, e-commerce entrepreneurship, and new social media cultures. Cities balanced tradition with rapid modernization, preserving cultural landmarks while building futuristic business districts. Public transit improvements reduced commute times, parks added green space, and pollution control policies gradually improved air quality in major urban centers. China's rapid growth also created challenges. Environmental issues worsened as factories expanded, leading to pollution concerns that triggered national awareness campaigns. Air quality deteriorated in major cities, prompting strict emission regulations and renewable energy initiatives. Water scarcity in northern regions required massive infrastructure projects, including the South-North Water Transfer Project. Income inequality grew between urban and rural populations, creating social tensions that demanded policy adjustments. Overheating property markets created affordability issues for younger generations. Debt levels in local governments and state-owned enterprises became areas of ongoing economic concern. International relationships evolved as China's economic power expanded. Some nations welcomed partnership through trade and investment, while others grew cautious of its rising geopolitical influence. Diplomatic strategies shifted as China became more assertive in regional and global affairs. Trade disputes, technology restrictions, and security concerns emerged between China and major powers, particularly the United States. Despite tensions, economic interdependence remained strong, tying global markets to Chinese demand and production capabilities. Domestic industries adapted to global pressures by upgrading technology and investing in higher value production. Manufacturing shifted from low-cost labor to automation, robotics, and advanced engineering. Factories integrated artificial intelligence, real-time analytics, and smart logistics systems to improve efficiency. Universities partnered with companies to develop innovation ecosystems that produced world-class research and patents. The transition from made in China to designed in China strengthened national confidence in long-term development. Urban regions became economic powerhouses. The Pearl River Delta, Yangtze River Delta, and Beijing, Tianjin, Hebei regions evolved into megaclusters with integrated transportation, tech hubs, and financial centers. Shenzhen, once a fishing village, became a global innovation hotspot known for hardware, drones, telecom, and digital services. Shanghai strengthened its role as an international financial center. Guangzhou specialized in manufacturing innovation, logistics, and commerce. Chengdu, Wuhan, and Xi'an developed advanced tech and education sectors that attracted investment and talent. The country's demographic landscape began shifting as well. Aging population concerns prompted policy changes, including adjustments to family planning regulations. Healthcare systems expanded, pension reforms advanced, and urbanization continued drawing millions from rural areas. Social stability remained a priority, leading to development of extensive public service networks, digital governance systems, and surveillance technologies aimed at maintaining order. Technological advancement accelerated automation in transportation, manufacturing, and digital platforms. Cashless transactions dominated daily life, blockchain and AI integrated into logistics, and electric vehicles gained widespread adoption. China's focus on self-reliance and technology intensified due to global competition, especially in semiconductors, aerospace, and advanced manufacturing. Investment in national research centers, laboratories, and talent programs aimed to strengthen domestic innovation. By the early 2020s, China stood as the world's second-largest economy, with global influence in finance, technology, infrastructure, and trade. Its rapid rise resulted from a combination of long-term planning, massive population, strategic industrial policies, global integration, and local entrepreneurship. Cities thrived as hubs of opportunity, while rural development programs continued pushing modernization deeper into the countryside. Economic shifts created new middle-class lifestyles, redefining aspirations for millions of families. Despite internal and external challenges, trade tensions, demographic concerns, technological competition, environmental issues, China continued adapting and innovating. Its economic trajectory remained a defining force shaping the global landscape, influencing supply chains, markets, diplomacy, and technological evolution. The momentum of decades of development created a foundation capable of supporting future growth, while strategic reforms and policy experiments aimed to sustain stability and competitiveness. China's story of rapid development reflected a complex interplay of ambition, discipline, innovation, and resilience that reshaped global economics in the modern era. China, I guess rapid development enters its fourth and most complex phase as the nation shifts from manufacturing-driven growth to a model centered on technology, global influence, and structural reform. The transition is anything but smooth. Factories that powered the boom of the 1990s and 2000s now confront rising labor costs, environmental regulations, and competition from automation. Coastal provinces restructure millions of jobs, moving from low-end manufacturing to advanced production, robotics, biotechnology, and high-value exports. Urban centers like Shenzhen, Shanghai, and Hangzhou become innovation hubs where startups, multinational tech firms, research institutions, and state-backed enterprises collaborate to define the frontier of artificial intelligence, quantum computing, green energy, and digital commerce. The shift is visible everywhere. In Shenzhen, assembly lines, once staffed by thousands, now run with a fraction of the workforce, guided by precision robotics and AI-optimized supply chains. Engineers monitor real-time production data from digital dashboards. Logistics networks deliver components with near-perfect timing, supported by autonomous vehicles, drone fleets, and smart warehouses. The Made in China 2025 initiative accelerates this transformation, channeling billions into semiconductors, aerospace, medical equipment, and advanced materials. The nation seeks to reduce dependence on foreign technology and climb to the top of global value chains. Urbanization continues shaping China's development, with megacities functioning as engines of consumption and innovation. Hundreds of millions migrate to cities, contributing to a dynamic labor force and expanding domestic markets. New transportation networks connect city clusters with bullet trains, expressways, and smart transit systems. In regions like the Pearl River Delta and the Yangtze River Delta, city integration blurs traditional boundaries, forming economic regions larger than many countries. Property markets evolve with tighter regulations designed to prevent financial bubbles while ensuring affordability. Housing reforms aim to stabilize prices, protect homeowners, and support long-term demographic goals. China's digital economy becomes a pillar of modernization. E-commerce reshapes consumer behavior, with platforms processing billions of transactions annually. Online payment systems create a cashless society where transactions occur seamlessly across physical and virtual spaces. Live-stream commerce, AI-driven recommendations, and personalized services merge entertainment with shopping, driving domestic consumption. Companies in cloud computing, cybersecurity, and big data expand rapidly, positioning China as a leader in digital infrastructure. Investments in 5G and early exploration of 6G technologies further strengthen network capabilities, enabling advances in autonomous mobility, telemedicine, virtual education, and smart manufacturing. The Belt and Road Initiative extends China's influence beyond its borders. Roads, ports, railways, power plants, and digital corridors reshape infrastructure across Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. Developing nations gain access to capital, technology, and engineering expertise. Chinese firms secure long-term contracts, natural resources, and strategic footholds in emerging markets. Trade routes diversify, reducing reliance on maritime choke points and strengthening China's resilience in global supply networks. The initiative sparks geopolitical debates, yet its scale solidifies China's role as a central player in global development. The financial sector evolves alongside these transformations. China boosts its banking regulations, promotes digital currency trials, deepens capital market reforms, and opens pathways for controlled foreign investment. The renminbi's internationalization progresses through currency swaps, cross-border payment systems, and central bank cooperation with dozens of countries. Sovereign digital currency experiments redefine financial policy tools, enabling precise control over liquidity, consumption incentives, and anti-corruption measures. Fintech companies integrate with traditional banks to provide credit access for small businesses, farmers, and entrepreneurs across rural regions. Environmental reform becomes essential to sustaining growth. Heavy smog, polluted rivers, and degraded farmland create pressure for change. China invests heavily in solar, wind, hydro, and nuclear energy, reducing dependence on coal and fossil fuels. Green technology industries emerge as global leaders in battery manufacturing, electric vehicles, and energy storage. Large-scale reforestation projects restore ecosystems, while air quality surveillance networks enforce compliance. Cities transition to electric buses, shared mobility, and green buildings. Environmental goals align with industrial strategy, positioning China at the center of the global shift towards sustainable development. Demographic challenges become the next major test of growth. The aging population accelerates, fertility rates decline, and workforce numbers shrink. Policymakers introduce incentives for families, reform pension systems, digitize healthcare, and expand elder care services. Automation, robotics, and AI offset labor shortages while boosting productivity. Education reforms focus on fostering creativity, innovation, and high-skill talent. Universities expand research partnerships with global institutions, and vocational training prepares millions for modern industries. The goal is to create a workforce capable of sustaining technological advancement and competing in global markets. Domestic consumption rises as a strategic priority. Economic plans emphasize income growth, social welfare expansion, and modernization of supply chains to support a robust middle class. Retail, entertainment, healthcare, finance, and modern services become engines of employment. Tourism, sports, and cultural industries expand rapidly, shaping a diversified, consumption-driven economy. Rural revitalization initiatives reduce inequality between urban and rural regions, improving transportation, digital connectivity, and agricultural modernization. Farmers integrate into national supply chains through e-commerce platforms and cooperative networks. Global tensions influence China's development trajectory. Trade wars, sanctions, and geopolitical rivalries challenge access to foreign markets, technologies, and investment. In response, China accelerates domestic innovation, builds strategic reserves, strengthens economic self-reliance, and fortifies alliances with developing nations. The dual circulation strategy emerges, balancing domestic economic power with strategic international engagement. China reassesses supply chains, cutting vulnerabilities and establishing redundancies across essential industries such as semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, energy, and food security. Cultural confidence grows alongside economic strength. Chinese cinema, music, fashion, and digital entertainment expand internationally. Language and cultural exchange programs attract students, tourists, and professionals from around the world. Domestic tech platforms shape global trends in gaming, animation, and social media. Universities invest in global academic partnerships. While China's scientific output rises in fields such as physics, engineering, material science, and biomedical research, cultural influence complements economic power, enhancing China's global identity. The military modernization program reinforces national security and supports economic expansion. Investments in aerospace, cyber defense, naval capacity, and strategic technologies ensure protection of trade routes, resources, and global infrastructure projects. Civil-military fusion accelerates innovation in dual-use technologies. National security strategies integrate economic resilience, technological independence, and geopolitical stability into long-term planning. As China enters a new stage of development, the central challenge becomes balancing high-speed transformation with long-term stability. Managing inequality, sustaining innovation, addressing demographic shifts, and ensuring environmental protection form the core tasks ahead. China's rapid rise has reshaped global power structures, supply chains, financial systems, and technological competition. Its future trajectory influences global markets, international diplomacy, and the strategic direction of dozens of nations. The story of China's rapid development is a combination of planning, adaptation, experimentation, industrial capability, and social transformation. From a largely agrarian economy to a technological powerhouse, the shift has occurred on an unprecedented scale. Urban skylines, vast manufacturing hubs, high-speed rail networks, green energy fields, digital megacities, and global infrastructure projects illustrate the extent of this transformation. Challenges remain, but the momentum built over decades continues driving China toward a future where innovation, resilience, and strategic planning define national progress.